come once again to discuss things.
Send you like a million Twitter and Skype messages that say Spider-Man. Anyway, let's go ahead and start out. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Milan Jeftik, and you are all doomed! Doomed! I don't do a very good Zim. I wish Deadpool Zello was here. He does a really good Zim.
Mm-hmm. He also does a pretty good Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, funny enough.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I just remember when he posted that, like, fanfic that's really, like, fanrotica on his channel, and, like, he totally didn't get it the whole time he was reading it until, like, after people started commenting on it.
He's such a sweetheart. I mean, it's like, he's... I don't know, that boy needs to get, like, I don't know. Yeah.
It just cracked me up. Anyway, so this week we're going to be talking about the collective works of some guy whose name I can't pronounce.
Okay, let me tell you. Essentially, we're going to be comparing the metafictional ideas that both Jhonen Vasquez and Grant Morrison play with. Essentially, what brought this on was I found this motion comic rendition of one of Jhonen Vasquez's standalone works called I Feel Sick. It's a spin-off of his more famous Johnny the Homicidal Maniac series. Essentially, one of Johnny's victims ran away, and just kind of interesting. Essentially, the story discusses, it's a very comedic take on the whole, the artist's work coming to life and taking over type of a thing. But what really drove me, like, after I finished watching this, and after I read some Johnny the Homicidal Maniac again, I realized that Jhonen Vasquez played with a lot of the same ideas Grant Morrison tends to play with, but done in a more Lovecraftian take. Because essentially the whole idea of ideas being brought into the physical realm, like things in fiction getting a hold in the real world and dragging themselves into reality. With Grant Morrison, it's more of a positive thing, with like superheroes being like the new gods, being the positive embodiments of everything that humanity could possibly be, coming up with the idea of something that could, like a mentality of a person that can withstand apocalyptic level events and still come out stronger than ever. A superhero, somebody who can come up against these insane scenarios and still and find some kind of psychological and physical way to get past them and win out in the end. So that's a more positive view on this whole thing. With Jhonen Vasquez, especially with this I Feel Sick motion piece of work, it took a more Lovecraftian route. It's a lot more horror-inspired, but it doesn't get too preachy.
Yeah.
It's
very horror-inspired, and I see the Lovecraft connection because, I mean, Lovecraft, his bread and butter was people going crazy and writing about it as it happened.
Indeed, but with Jhonen Vasquez, he has this ability to... He's not too fond of this ridiculous sophistry as Lovecraft was. He's more to the point, and he spices the whole thing up. Like, I love Lovecraft, don't get me wrong, but he incorporates the weird zany humor he's most well known for in Invader Zim and Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. If you want to check it out, you can find the description to the motion comic in the description of this video. It's 3 pieces. It's done in 3 parts. It's done by Algebraic Acid, Algebraic. That girl. You can subscribe to her. She's amazing. She's a great voice actress. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about the metafictional, where those two meet, because these two ideas seem to really intrigue me. Because
so I think a good way to go about that then would be to start off talking about some of the ways that like the way in which Vasquez writes, like his style, and then we already are pretty popular on this show, I think, for loving Grant Morrison, so I don't think we need to talk too much about Morrison, but let's just talk about Vasquez on his own for a little bit.
Definitely.
That's probably a good way to go about it, and then we can compare them after the fact.
Oh, definitely. But the thing is, we're kind of known as this show that just shamelessly fillets Grant Morrison and at every chance we possibly get. We're always on Morrison's cock. We're just all the time. It's just like, it's so huge and vast and full of literary nods that it's just like, you can't help but write it. You feel classier after you read it, after you write it.
You feel classier after you suck Grant Morrison's cock in the back alley and let him come on your face.
Yeah.
You just feel like a better person.
Yeah, his cum is hallucinogenic.
All right, tweet that.
Write that down before I forget that.
Okay.
Grant Morrison's cum is hallucinogenic.
Oh, hold on a sec, everyone.
Like, when you say something funny just out of nowhere, you just have to tweet it, because that's the world we live in.
I spelled hallucinogenic wrong, so figure out how to spell that correctly. But yeah, anyway. No, so Grant Morrison's stuff is great, and that's why I don't think we need to talk about him too much, because we've done a whole video on Grant Morrison, and we've talked about, all of his stuff just constantly. It comes up. So I really don't feel like there's much of a need to. Like, everyone knows our opinions on Morrison, and if you want, like, a more rounded out view, you can go watch, obviously our video we did on Grant Morrison, or anything, we did that's related to Batman, because he always comes up there. So, yeah, just go check that out. Anyway. So, Vasquez has this really interesting ability, and yeah, the only thing I can think of to compare it to is Lovecraft, wherein he has this, I think it's most prevalent in Invader Zim, but you can obviously see it in Sickness as well. He makes humanity seem just disgusting, but at the same time, perfectly normal. And what I mean by that is, like, Invader Zim is really the perfect outlet for that, because you have an alien, and more or less the entire show is from the alien's perspective, and just everything is gross and terrifying and creepy and dumb. And so that's how an outsider would view humanity, which is what I always enjoy, to see someone bring humanity down a peg. Invader Zim is particularly fun to watch after having watched through a bunch of Star Trek, because it's just like, you get this, idealized view of humanity from Star Trek, and then you get, like, literally the most opposite take I could possibly imagine from Invader Zim. And so, like, you see a lot of that, too, in Sickness, as like, people are just weird and creepy and disgusting, like when she's riding in the car with the boy, and then she finds out that he's horny, and it's just, oh, gross, I've got to find a way to get out of here. And then the situation even gets worse, and then there's, like, the fat psychic lady, and she's just so fat, she's filling up the stairwell, just all that kind of stuff. It's really well thought out.
Yeah, spoiler warning, her fat is psychic, not the lady, it's herself.
Yeah, true. No, it's like, Invader Zim just had all those great moments when you go through and watch it. I was watching the one episode where there are, like, evil babies that are attacking him, and, like, all the babies just are like, Zim's in a robot suit, and all the babies want to fight him, so they, like, get into a gigantic dog pile, and then they melt, and then they form, like, a giant mech of babies that are, like, it's not like a bunch of babies, like, holding hands to become a giant mech. It's like this blob of babies with, like, arms, faces, and legs sticking out in random spots to form a giant mech, and it's just one of the most nightmare-inducing things I think I could ever see. If I hadn't seen it in the context of Invader Zim, I would find that legitimately disturbing.
Funny enough, hearing you describe that, it's amazing how whenever you try to describe Invader Zim to other people, you sound like a crazy homeless person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Grant Morrison. So there's your parallels.
There you go.
No, but yeah, but it's just like Vasquez has that very particular style, that view of humanity from the outside, which is really impressive. I haven't read Johnny Homicidal Maniac, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of like an outsider character as well, because I get the feeling that Vasquez is probably a very antisocial individual.
Well, he is a goth boy, but, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac is kind of an outsider because he is a homicidal maniac.
Well, of course.
Of course, yeah. But we all...
Really, I thought it was about a kid that, like, worked at McDonald's or something.
Yeah, but we all have our little character flaws. You can't blame the poor lad. But, some would call me a homicidal maniac. But, not serious. I'm more of a banal maniac.
Yeah. No, but like, so I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Vasquez is like kind of, an outsider, antisocial.
He's a goth. He's just like one of those goths that, not like he started the whole goth thing more or less. Neil Gaiman kind of brought in a lot of the goth audience. Like, Neil Gaiman is more 80s goth, more like, hey, I just like to wear black and shit. Jhonen Vasquez is more the 90s goth. Like, he was the original cornerstone of the thing, but then Hot Topic came along and diluted his essence, and so everyone became goth, and he's, like nowadays, how I'm a crazy, unlikable weirdo? And now the internet has made a lot of, like being an uncomfortable weirdo, it's no longer a thing anymore. So I've become more retroactively normal to fight against that. Like, I'm no longer as weird and sexual and perverse and strange as I used to be, just because, well, the internet has just given fruit to so many unremarkable weirdos that my weirdness pales in comparison.
Yeah. Sure.
So, yeah.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
No, but like, so I'm not surprised to find that out, and oddly enough, to your point about Hot Topic, if you ever want Invader Zim merchandise, where do you have to go?
Hot Topic, exactly. That's the thing. Like, Jhonen Vasquez actually fucking hates the whole goth thing. It's like, because... Familiar Faces, the guy who works for Nostalgia Critic, did this really cool episode on this. He does this show called Familiar Faces, and he talks about some unfamiliar character in pop culture. And he talked about Jhonen Vasquez a lot, and he explains that, like, they've turned a thing that was legitimate into a fashion statement. It was no longer about, like, for example, who do you like? Like, if you say nerd, who's your, or anime nerd, or fucking movie buff, what is your favorite thing if you're a movie buff? Citizen Kane. If you're a fucking comic book fan, what is your favorite, thing? Well, I guess that's a bit more diverse, but if you're this or that, there's a specific brand of thing that you must like because you are part of this subculture. Mm-hmm. And he's got really pissed off at that because Invader Zim and that whole goth chic thing turned his individuality into something that's essentially marketable, like fucking goth TM. What's the point of being goth if you're fucking, like, there are goths out there, like they all metamorphosed into hipsters now, but like whenever I see a goth like in public, like a proper wears black fucking pale face goth, I shed a tear of relief. It's like seeing a dinosaur that hasn't died out yet. I'm like, wow, you are so amazing. Like, I love seeing goths, like the real ones.
It's like seeing a T-Rex again.
Yeah.
It's like that scene in Jurassic Park with the fucking brontosauruses.
Yeah, exactly. It's so beautiful. It's like now, like, being a goth is just gonna come back into vogue. Not really into vogue, into fashionable, unfashionable. It's not even fashionable. That's why it's come back, because the true goth has returned, and I'm happy with that. But yeah, this whole idea of just this horrible. I love the character or the concept behind the doll, the doll of the paint, the painting of the doll, this this piece of art being a kind of a catalyst, not a catalyst exactly, but a thing for extra-dimensional entities to anchor themselves in our reality. Mm-hmm. Like a thing that an artist's like, just the whole, like, that's the thing that I love about this, like, particular story. It's so vague. That's what I love most about Lovecraft and Vasquez, especially with this story. He doesn't explain everything. He does the thing that what makes the original concept of the monster fascinating. He doesn't give you every little thing. What killed the vampire? Like, what killed the vampire? Knowing how to kill it. Like, once you know how to kill a vampire, you know it can be killed. You know it can bleed. You know, that all you need now is just an action hero in a trench coat and a fucking stick, or a chick with blonde hair. Like, once you know how to kill a monster, once you know everything you need to know about a creature, that creature stops being the thing of nightmares. It just becomes a thing to shoot at a video game. Like,
Yeah. To be fair, though, I think he explains basically how to defeat this thing by the end of it.
Yeah, but the thing is,
it's just you have to be worse. You have to be crazier than that part of your craziness. Was basically the answer that he gave, and I suppose it's not like an easy way to get there, but still, it seems perfectly reasonable. She's able to just become aware of it earlier, and then is able to defeat it by being worse than it, which is not exactly what I'd call a normal hero thing, normal hero's journey, but hey, there you go.
Well, no, the thing is, what this thing did was it siphoned this, Devi's artistic talent. It really talked about what it was, being an artist, especially a commercial artist, from a person who just draws and paints for the sake of the thing itself to moving to something more commercial, talking about, like, you have to reroute your creative juices into something that would actually get you money. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's that ability to, like, how do you balance that? Making money off your art, off your artistic talent, and just doing something because you want to do it. And this creature, this extra-dimensional Lovecraftian entity, latches on to this unfinished work that she has been, like, it's a painting that she's been wanting to finish, but she can't because she's being distracted by all this commercial stuff. She works for this company that, does sci-fi novels, and she illustrates the covers and whatever, and they criticize her work, and he just all this bureaucratic horseshit, and it's just like,
did you get the box of monkeys we sent you?
Yeah, don't try to distract me with monkeys. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's this idea of this thing, like the concept of this creature latching on to somebody's mind and using an unfinished piece of art to pull itself into reality. But the thing is, unlike Johnny, who is also an artist, Johnny is too far gone. Johnny, the homicidal maniac, he's the one. This is a spin-off of that, but essentially, she managed to get this thing, become aware of this entity before it got its little claws into her fully, to the point where she couldn't escape it. And that's why this little creature had to rip itself out of the painting. It wasn't fully whole. And I love that visual of this weird little doll thing drawn by a goth, but, like, it's not fully formed yet, and so its legs are these weird
like spider legs kind of thing. Yeah, that was really fucked up.
Yeah, and I love that idea of just, like, this thing had to pull itself, and it didn't come through all the way. And that's and with Johnny and its whole speech that he gives Devi, like, just let us take over. You can be like God. You can go and you can kill and you can murder. Like, no one will see you. You can literally go out, like, put a bomb out in a fucking public restaurant, set it off, run away, covered in blood and brought, like, you can walk through this life like God. And that's what Johnny can do. Like, with as silly and crazy as Johnny's world is, like, that's why he manages to get away with all these horrific murders in the neighborhood, because these things protect him. They siphoned enough of his artistic talent they've essentially replaced that part of his head that made him be that artist. He is now just a tool of these things. They protect him, they need him, but they also... read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. It's funny as hell, it's crazy, and a sociopathic monster like you would love it. But,
Oh, thanks.
no, I use the word sociopathic murderer as a compliment when talking to you, you know.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. You are dead inside, remember?
Yeah, true.
Well, not really. You got a girlfriend now.
That doesn't change who I am, thank you very much.
Oh,
but anyway.
does. It does. You've become... Regular sex has made you soft, Ian.
Oh, thanks, Milan, thanks. Anyway. No, I guess I get where you're coming from with that, but at the same time, I don't think that the monster in the painting is the same kind of monster as, like, that undefined, unknowable thing. I just don't think that that's exactly what he's gone for here. I think it's fairly well laid out, and she does find a way to beat it, and she's, she does the whole classic monster thing in a way, is she figures out what would work to kill it, and is able to overcome it, so...
Well, that's the thing. That's only because she managed to notice it ahead of, she managed to see it before it could really get into her, because that's the tragedy with Johnny. When he finds out what the fuck is going on, they've already driven him insane. And so I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's rather tragic and funny. It's something like, Jhonen Vasquez made suicide hilarious.
Oh, good. That's just what we need. Okay, I guess I get where you're coming from, but that point, with the only context I have being sickness, I don't agree with. But maybe if I would read Homicidal Maniac, I'd change my mind. Is that a fair way to put it?
I suppose so.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about Invader Zim, because I feel like that shows his writing style quite a bit too, and it doesn't get quite as abstract in that show. Because even the episodes he's not writing...
It's a show for kids, everyone. Invader Zim is a show for children.
Yeah, and at times it doesn't feel that way, but even episodes that he's not the one writing, it still feels very like him, like his... I have a feeling he had a very strong grasp on the writers of that show.
Or maybe he defined something so original that, like, how somebody makes something and then everyone just instantly gets it? How you just create a certain formula or a certain, like, world, and it's just that's so well defined, it's really easy for another writer to just come in, plunge their hands into the muck and build something worthwhile, because the original creator has given you so much to work with.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, it's just everything feels like him. Like, I could legitimately believe that he wrote almost every single episode of that show. And I know he didn't, but if someone were to tell me that before I, watched the credits, I'd believe it. And so I think that show really not only displays his view of humanity as an outsider, but I feel like it also does a really good job of showing just how... I'm trying to think of how to put this. Of just how creative he can be. Like, the whole idea of, an alien invading Earth and trying to take it over as a kid's show seems just so out there already, but then to make it as creepy and as weird as it is... Like, the only other Nickelodeon show that I think really captures that same thing is, Real Monsters. And even then, that feels like a soft version of this.
It's... People use this word for everything nowadays, but he really does, he fully comprehends the whole idea of subversion. He subverted expectations, goddammit.
Yeah, totally, because, an alien show, like, you'd expect the whole point of the show would be, especially given that it's a kid's show, you'd expect that the alien would change his mind.
He doesn't.
Like, by the end of it. And he doesn't. No, he shows up, hating humanity and ready to take it over, and the show ends with him hating humanity and ready to take it over. He's just really bad at it.
Yeah, well, and it's really kind of this classic whole, send the fool off to some unwanted piece of, like, space matter. It's like, it's a classic foil.
Uh-huh. And, like, Dib's there, and he's trying to stop Zim at every turn, and, like, I love that as many times as he beats Zim, he also fails. It's just he doesn't fail in important ways is all it comes down to, and that's just to keep the show going. But by far my favorite episode, and I think this captures everything of just how weird and how creepy and how ridiculous this show can be, is A Room with a Moose! Because that episode just, oh my god, it gets it perfectly. It's like, I've decided to send you all, because Zim, like, loaded all the students onto a bus, and he's sending them into space. I decided to send you all to a different dimension. Now then, it was just a matter of choosing which dimension I would send you to. So I found this dimension of really itchy stuff. You can't tell by the monitor, but that stuff's really itchy. And then I also found this other dimension of pure dookie. Oh god, no! Yes, but then I found a dimension that was far, far worse. A room with a moose! No! Wait a minute, that doesn't sound that bad. Oh, just wait. And then he, like, sends walnuts through, and the moose just starts eating walnuts, like, very slowly, and it's so weird and so creepy. I love that so much. It's like the most bizarre, out there concept you could possibly get a hold of, and he just captures it perfectly.
Very much so. It's one of those oddball things. It's just like a room with a moose eating nuts very slowly is conceptually rather terrifying.
Like that's all you get for the rest of eternity is just a moose just chomping away.
I mean, imagine that, just sitting there. Like, do they need to eat? Do they have access to food, or does I
imagine they get some of the walnuts.
Well, imagine that. Is it a confined space?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Maybe. Well,
imagine it's like you try to walk off, and then as soon as you're like far away enough from the moose, you just like come right back around the other way in that classic cartoony way. You try to walk off screen and you just come on the other end.
I mean, imagine that. That sounds like hell. Growing up in this just this horrible four-walled room with a moose, just growing older and older, surviving only on nuts, and one would assume the moose's droppings and urine, you drink the piss of the moose.
Okay, I think you're taking it too far, which is a weird thing to say when talking about Invader Zim.
No, but still, I mean, like, what kind of hell would that be? Once you reach of age, would you try to fuck the moose? One would assume yes, because, like, if you're sent there alone, then yes, of course. If you're sent there with other humans, like other male and female mix of, if you send a classroom full of people there, I mean, like, those are people, like children, trapped in a room with a moose.
Okay, I think we're done talking about the room with the moose.
Terrifying, god damn it.
Yeah, but like I feel like that episode really captures just everything about his writing style, and that, like I said, you can see a lot of Invader Zim in Sickness. Like, this dude is definitely not the kind of person you want to ghostwrite anything, because his style is just so, like, slap you in the face obvious. Like, I love how in Sickness she's fighting against this force that's really her. It's kind of like nightmares in that sense of, the worst thing about a nightmare is that your brain did it to you. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like betrayal. That's Gaiman for everyone out there. So like, you really get that sense too of just how everything he does is meant to be horrifying, yet still hilarious, which makes it even worse. It's like, oh my god, I'm laughing at something awful. Now I feel even worse about what's going on.
Yeah, he's somebody I've never really seen somebody who's like he's so to the bone. He's so bare bones. You don't really get a person. I don't really know of a person who does that so well. Who intermixes like comedy and monstrous horror so leanly. He's so lean in his writing, and he's so to the point. But like what he has to say is so like it's like a punch in the gut from a very skinny person.
Yeah, I'm sure I can think of someone else who mixes comedy and stuff like that really well. Nothing's coming to mind right this second, but I know I've seen other stuff that makes me feel that same way. I don't know. It's just he's a really well-rounded writer, or not well-rounded because he's very specific. He's a really good writer, and he's very memorable, and that's one of the best things you can say about a writer is you're not going to forget their stuff once you've seen it. And I feel like before we move on, we got to talk about why people don't like his stuff. Because like I know I've seen people who talk about Invader Zim and just like. Either they don't get it, or they get it and don't think it's funny. And I don't know how you couldn't think some of the shit that goes down in Zim isn't hilarious. But like I feel like there is that group out there that feels like Invader Zim is just infamous, and it's like, oh my god, that show's so creepy, it just scares the shit out of me to watch it. And like, yeah, I guess, but that's kind of the fun of it, guys. Why can't you just enjoy being creeped out by something? Why does every cartoon have to be just zany fun and can't be kind of creepy also?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you can't get creeped out at something now and again, what's the point?
Yeah, I'd like an animated horror movie. I think that could be fun.
Yeah. I think I'll produce a horror movie one of these days.
Yeah. I'd like an animated horror movie or maybe like a, you know what'd be really good for animation and horror is a Freddy Krueger movie. An animated Freddy Krueger. That'd be great.
Yeah.
R-rated animated Freddy Krueger movie. There we go, Hollywood. Make it happen.
Watch fucking Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah, I've seen a bit of that show. That's fucking ridiculous.
It's awesome. Rick and Morty is, like, that's another thing. It's another thing. It very much feels like in the same vein as Invader Zim, but the writing is also... Like, it seems like it's all ad-libbed. It's like they just put the actors in a booth and said, just fucking, this is the vague scenario, just fucking, it seems so ad-libbed, because it's like
okay, the guys that do Archer and C-Lab and stuff, they don't, it's not creepy, but, like, they do, like, they blend action and comedy really well. Because the argument I've always made is you could take an episode of Archer, or at least an action scene of Archer, and dub over the dialogue, and it's actually legitimately badass. But because of what the characters are saying, the scene's hilarious. The dialogue in Archer is what makes that show funny, but the action in it is just fucking balls to the wall awesome. Like there was, in season 2, I think, there's an episode where like this topless, like 16-year-old girl is hugging onto his back as he's on a snowmobile, and he's like, you know, going in through some woods, being shot at by like mercenaries, and he's not able to shoot because he has to drive, and he's not able to like lean back and stuff because he doesn't want to expose the girl's tits. But so he's like constantly trying to figure out ways to outfox the guys so they like run into shit with their snowmobiles. And so the animation in that is just fucking awesome. But like the dialogue and the whole situation is just so damn absurd and ridiculous that you're laughing your ass off while you're watching it. And so Invader Zim does the same kind of thing, but instead of awesome action, even though it has some great action, it's just so fucking ridiculously hilarious that the creepiness doesn't bother you anymore.
Yeah, it's the Halloween episode.
What?
The Halloween episode.
I don't think I remember that one.
Oh my god. Like, when I first saw that, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, these monster designs are... Like, imagine if you're a little kid, just watching that thing for the first fucking time. You're like a little boy, like, yeah, I'm gonna watch some Invader Zim. My big brother says it's cool, and they're just like, oh Jesus Christ, oh my God, like you traumatized the child with awesome.
Okay then, this is a good night for Milan.
I'm usually like really on at 12 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, good to know.
It's like nearly 1 a.m. now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of going out into the night and wandering.
And just terrifying children.
All the children are like, this has been my dream for the longest time. It's just one of these days hiring out a clown costume and just standing in front of the window, like going to a really rich people area and just standing and breaking into their front lawns and just standing at what I would assume to be the child's window and just pointing at it in the hopes that maybe the child would wake up and look out the window and see a clown in his backyard pointing up at him. Like I would spend hours just at every house, just like for years, in the vain hope that maybe that would happen, just so I can, I want to traumatize a child and just have no, like a random child, not like I'll find one out, just why is there a clown pointing at me? I don't know. And I just disappear into the night. I'm a very strange person, I'm sorry.
You have serious issues.
No.
Serious issues.
It'd be a fun Halloween prank.
No, it really wouldn't. It'd be a fucked up thing to do to a human being.
No, come on, Clowns aren't scary. I never understood this whole American fear of clowns. I'm Russian and we love our clowns. They're a national pastime.
Well, no, I think clowns have become creepy because, just ever since, I want to say the 60s or 70s, people have done nothing with clowns in media except make them creepy.
I never understood that. Clowns are delightful people. My uncle's a clown.
Really?
Well, he's also a cannibal, but that's unrelated.
See, I don't know if that was a true thing that you just said or not.
Well, my uncle is a clown. He's currently locked up in a madhouse, or I think he's in prison or dead. Yeah, Papa?
Obusi, Michael, Zerajus.
Why'd you pinch my cheek so roughly?
Michael.
You're a very mean man.
What's happening?
He's just wandered in with no pants on, just pinched my cheek and wandered into the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, I've just realized that there's a lot of old hookers around my neighborhood.
Okay.
Just a lot of really, really, really old, sad-looking whores.
Why don't you go traumatize them as a clown?
Well, I can't.
I can think of several ways to do that.
Well, no, because you can't. They've seen so much of life that nothing could, nothing, and I'm...
No. Here's what you do. You rent your clown costume, and you get a bunch of squeaky toys, and then you go hire one of these old hookers, and you want them to have sex with you in the clown costume while you, honk a horn and, insert squeaky toys in the orifices.
No, that's gauche. That's really gauche. I mean... No, come on. What? Gee,
that's not classy enough for you?
No. And these are really sweet ladies. They're so old and they dress like 16-year-olds. Like their faces have been melted by drugs and age and sadness. And
oh my god.
I'm
so out there now.
I know, but it's just I'm really nice to them. I don't use them or anything because they're gross, but I'm if they ask for a cigarette, I give them a cigarette because, they're working girls and you gotta treat those with respect.
Okay, anyway.
Это мой друг from America. He's a friend. Oh. My father, say hello to my dad.
Huh?
Hello. Hello, Milan's dad.
My dad's wearing the headphones.
Oh, hello, Milan's dad. How are you today?
He doesn't understand your heathen language.
Oh. How do you say hello in Russian?
He has left already.
Oh well. In any case, what else is there to talk about? Just Vasquez on his own.
I don't know. I mean,
so like you said, Homicidal Maniac was a spin-off.
No.
There's that
Sickness is a spin-off from John.
Yeah, well, yeah, my bad. There's that scene with what's her face and a guy, and they're like sitting on a car. Is that Johnny?
Yeah, that's Johnny.
Oh, weird. Okay.
That's actually taken from the Johnny series. They're just like placed it in there for context.
Interesting. Okay. Like, oh, so that's not in the original comic book?
What?
Of Sickness? That's not in Sickness, that scene?
No, that scene is in scene. Like, the Sickness was originally done in color, and that scene was taken from, and Johnny was done in black and white. And so they just took that scene out of the Johnny book and put it into Sickness for context for the, you know how Sickness talked, Sickness told Devi, like, your friend introduced us to you,
Yeah. That's I was wondering if the motion comic inserted that scene.
Maybe it did.
Like it wasn't in the original book.
I'm not sure. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I'm not 100% sure. But I think it. I think it was already in the colored copy. But
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. Like passing on Lovecraftian monstrosities through trauma.
Yeah, that scene I did really like though, because it's just seeing someone describe that inability, not just a creative block, but just this inability to feel that side of yourself anymore was fascinating.
Funny enough, as a young man, I'm an atheist now. You must understand me that I used to be rather insane, clinically speaking. I'm rather normal now, but I think I encountered these things before. These things that, like, maybe they're just hallucinations. Maybe they were, but I hope they were. And I'm gonna believe that regardless of the fact. But it's weird because encountering these similar entities, that's what they tend to do. I don't know if it's weird. Like, you have certain, like, don't get into the occult at a young age. All right, you might open pathways. Sound advice. Yes, very. Like, don't do that, because if you have predispositions to those things, you might open a doorway in your head for things from the outside to get attracted to, and when you get their attention, they'll keep on coming. Grant
Morrison talked about that, how he was taking acid and trying to do all these things to have these otherworldly experiences, and then, like, one day it finally happened, and, like, some kind of evil Indian god, like, told him, well, you wanted it, so now here it is, and now we're going to make you into an assassin for us, and all this other stuff. So it's interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, giant fucking scorpion people. But it's funny because with him, it seems more of a larger thing. These things that I encountered, and probably, for the benefit of the doubt, Vasquez encountered, they're more parasitic entities, while Grant Morrison encountered something a little bit more on the grander scale, because they were...
Well, it's Grant Morrison, what would you expect?
Exactly.
He doesn't waste his time on pitiful little parademons. He goes straight to Darkseid.
Exactly, definitely.
Oh my god.
Funny enough, I think I actually invoked Darkseid when I was going through my red pill phase. Yeah, no, really, I would watch those motion comics I made over and over again, and kept listening to their propaganda, and those kind of things kind of mixed, and I don't know, it was weird. It's the whole idea of invoking fictional entities to help you write better. This whole concept is rather fascinating, rather dangerous if you're clinically insane, like yours truly, but I don't know. That whole concept fascinates me to no end.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I remember you talking after you're off the red pill, like, it's some kind of anti-life shit, and I was like, That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
No, but like, I think we're about done talking about just Vasquez on his own. We'll spend the rest of the time just comparing him to Morrison. But is there anything else about Vasquez you wanted to bring up on his own? Because like I said, I think people just don't get it, or if they get it, they just think it's too creepy. Which I guess to each his own, but I think you should be willing to look past it because it's still hilarious.
Funny enough, I've read the comments for these motion comics, and you had this one comment that really stood out. Really stood out to me, and it was a person who talked about, said how well thought out the story and the characters were, but how, strangely creepy everything was. Like I love the characters, I love the story, I love the whole concept behind the thing, but why did it have to be so creepy? That was their whole complaint. They loved everything else, but that whole aesthetic of creepiness really got to them. And it's strange how things come and go, because back in the day, being creepy and weird was in vogue, and now everything's gone back to that more hippie-ish, hey, let's all be friends kind of a thing. Everyone's a lot more, like Grant Morrison talked about, something happens with the sun and the polarity of the earth, and how, fucking, culture comes in vogues. Like, for every fucking, 60, druggy, happy, let's all get along 60s, there has to be, a crazy, fascistic, dark, creepy, obsessed 90s.
Yeah.
Where the outcast is king.
Yeah, I think so, and it's interesting. I think that people just can't get past the creepiness of it, but at the same time, the creepy horribleness of things is just really fucking funny when he gets his hands on it, like the filler bunny stuff. That was fucking ridiculous. And it's like, part of the fun was how fucked up it was.
Oh, God, it was horrifying. Just please kill me.
Like, he's burning alive. He's like, no, don't save me. Let me die.
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh, my God.
Jesus. And, don't worry, kids. He pulled through. Oh, God. Oh, it's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
We talk about it because we're weirdos and we find that kind of shit funny, but it's really, it's one of those things that you have to be... It's a little bit too, the sensitive generation won't appreciate this, Yeah,
you have that whole shift towards this super politically correct culture where we have to take everyone's feelings into account at all times, and I'm like, yeah, I get why you'd want to do that, but at the same time, humor is humor, and you should take humorous things as humorous, even if you feel like they're misguided.
Yeah.
So, who was it? One of the presidential candidates the other day, a couple weeks back, made a joke about how he wished when he was in high school he could just tell the coach that he felt like a girl so he could shower with the other girls. And yeah, that's still a dick thing to say, and it's very dismissive, but people are taking that as oh, see, this is the kind of people that they are. They're really perverts and everything. Let's be fair. The guy's an asshole, but it's still a joke.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Don't exaggerate it too much. He's an ass. I agree. Is he a horrible pervert? No, he's just an asshole.
Yeah, funny enough, I've just finished listening to this podcast, this Joe Rogan podcast, where he had this really politically correct stand-up comic on, and they discussed that whole thing with Daniel Tosh, how he was, when he was talking to, what do we want to talk about today? He was doing a stand-up routine, and somebody yelled out, rape! And it's what's funny about rape? And he named off all the bad things about rape, and this chick just stood up and unironically said, there's nothing funny about rape. Well, he was making that point anyway. And then she was a heckler, and what he said to put her down was wouldn't it be funny if 7 guys just popped out of nowhere and raped her at this minute? Everyone laughed, she was offended, and she left. And apparently that caused a big old stink on Twitter, and they wanted to fucking cancel Tosh.0, or it's this kind of thing. It's they say that these kind of jokes promote rape culture. And I'm
and no, I disagree.
What the fuck is rape culture, man?
Well, it's this idea that people are asking for it and stuff.
What?
That justifying rape thing. And I disagree, because I think the whole point he makes, like, as you say, the whole joke he's making beforehand is that rape isn't funny.
Yeah.
In and of itself. Like, there's nothing that you can talk about with rape that in and of itself is funny, but you can make a joke that has rape as the punchline still.
Mm.
And it's one of those things, whenever someone says rape is never funny or something is never funny, like, let's use rape just because you're on it. When someone says rape is never funny, and I'm going to steal this joke from Alec, rape is never funny unless it's with a clown.
Yeah.
Like, that's just immediately funny. And
or
humor
or
is all about this. Yeah, or terrifying. Humor is always about this reversal of expectations. So, honestly, the second you say something X is never funny, it is immediately able to be funny, because all you have to do is reverse what the hell people think is not funny about it. So that's what humor is all about. And so you get into this politically correct culture where we always worry about hurting someone's feelings or doing this or that. I'm like, yeah, I get that you don't want to intentionally hurt people's feelings, but you can't be insecure about making your jokes or presenting your art or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to have confidence to do that, and so you can't second guess yourself. And so if someone is offended, shit happens.
Yeah.
Don't go out and actively prosecute and try to offend people like fucking, what's his name from Seinfeld did. That's what he was trying to do, is he was trying to actively offend and shock people, and that wasn't funny, but go out there and try to be funny, try to make your point.
Yeah.
There's a difference between those two things.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, people defended this guy because the joke was funny. People laughed. And people say, oh, Dane Cook does this shit all the time. Well, Dane Cook isn't a funny guy. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, Dane Cook is just like, after an orgy, the couch is filled with spunk, and that spunk isn't cleaned up for a week. That is what Dane Cook is. He's just the old...
Okay, then.
His old leftover spunk on the couch that you forgot to clean.
Dane Cook, to be fair, is funny in very small doses.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dane Cook has a Twitter, but I would follow Dane Cook on Twitter and just, like, read maybe every 10th tweet. Because that I could find enjoyable, but it's his acts that aren't funny, because his whole persona just gets so fucking annoying. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Vasquez and Morrison, compare and contrast them. So, like, you talked about the whole metafictional ideas, and I'm interested in hearing you go more into that. So, like, where do you think the metafictional stuff comes in with Vasquez in particular?
Well, the whole idea of, like, these whole entities, he talked about, especially, it seemed like he really just pulled from his own experiences, from as being an artistic person, because he published only 7 issues of the Johnny the Homicidal Maniac comic, and then he stopped because it was just getting too big and it was getting too popular. People were commercialized. They took this underground indie goth comic and made it the whole staple of being goth. Like, oh, you don't know Johnny the Homicidal? Johnny, it became like mandatory reading for all goths. And it's just like, I mean, like, what, you haven't read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac? Oh my god, you're not a true goth, Those kind of people got involved in the whole movement, and it's not a movement; it's a thing that young people did. That's
them damn whippersnappers.
Yeah. They're old in their fucking 30s to 40s now. People in the 90s are now in their 30s or 40s. That's amazing.
Well, some of them.
Kevin Smith, fucking, it's weird. Time moves and people age.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's the big takeaway. If you hadn't already figured that out for yourself.
I know. I've just figured that out, and it terrifies me.
Yeah, you have been talking about that. You're having like a quarter life crisis right now.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
It's awful. It's like, I'm 22 years old. I'm turning 23 in September, and I haven't killed anyone yet. And being a Russian person, that's like, That's the milestone. That's our bar mitzvah. It's standing over the battered bodies of our enemies and looking into their eyes as they die. That's what makes you a man. I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm joking. But seriously,
Okay.
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. Fuck you, you dickhead. I'm trying to talk about myself. Why won't you let me?
Okay.
You fucking ass. Oh, see, this is the thing. If I were an SJW, this would how dare you not let me talk about myself? And that's why I like you so much. You refuse to allow me to keep my head up my ass.
Yeah. So anyway, Vasquez does seem to have that very intentional, he's aware of what he's writing and how it's going to impact people. Whereas you have writers who put something out there and then you're amazed, or they're amazed rather, at the effect that it has. Like Salinger. J.D. Salinger wrote Catcher in the Rye, and he intended it to be a great work of literature and everything, but he was still just absolutely blown away by the reaction that it had amongst the world. Not just the creepy, crazy motherfuckers who use it as a justification to kill people, but just the huge fandom that it, or not even fandom, the fanaticism that it created. There was a petition at one point, led by, I believe, Jimmy Stewart, to get Salinger to sign off on the film rights to Catcher in the Rye so that Stewart could play Holden Caulfield. And there were thousands of signatures on this petition from people that wanted that to happen, and it's just Salinger would have people come to his front door and stand out there just wanting to talk to him about Catcher in the Rye and stuff. So you have this whole writer culture thing where people are amazed by the reactions that have come to their work and shocked by them. But it seems that Vasquez is perfectly aware of it.
Not really. Vasquez, he's one of those geniuses that doesn't like to be acknowledged for his genius. He's I want a very specific small group of people to acknowledge my genius, not the whole world. And that's why he stopped with he ended he wrapped up the Johnny's books way too early, some would say, and everyone got really pissed off at him. Why would you end it so quickly? I was fuck you. This is my work. I will end it whenever the fuck I want to. Yeah, and it's
but so he's aware of the impact that he's having.
Yeah, and he doesn't like it. He hates it. He hates the fact that he's become this popular. Grant Morrison knows what he does. Grant Morrison is more of that person who, I'm gonna use these large, broad, stroked characters and this whole medium of comic books to relay large mind, psyche-altering ideas to the youth.
Morrison, I think, is very aware of it and wants that to happen. He wants to be that divisive figure because, you got to remember, when Morrison got on the scene, it was at the same time as Moore and Gaiman. And I think Gaiman is, has the role that Vasquez wanted, where, only people who really know comics seem to know about Gaiman. And then Moore is, the famous one that's, just a complete asshole and shut-in, like Salinger, to a lesser extent than Salinger, to be fair. And then Morrison's the ones that embraces the fame and uses it to actually speak out and push the medium.
Yeah, that's true. But what's weird with the whole Catcher in the Rye thing? I've noticed this with a lot of works. That the thing is, if you start something, it becomes famous. If you do a thing that's never been done before, it becomes instantly. It becomes the first of a thing, because after you do the thing, everyone else is just doing remix versions, their takes on your basic idea. You introduce a new storytelling perspective, a new structure to you bring a new idea to a medium and to a civilization, and they lap it up, and a whole bunch of other lesser artists try to kind of work on that idea to varying degrees of success. And that's the thing. If you're the first of something, you will live on forever.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where you don't even have to be doing something that well. You just have to be push it.
You have to be the first person who does it. I mean, like, the fucking Beatles were the first boy band, the first properly global boy band.
Yeah, they weren't the first boy band.
Well, the first popular one, essentially. But the first modern pop, thing. And they metamorphosed into something a little bit more mature later down the line. But you understand, now a pop group with a bunch of identically dressed boys is now it's a whole money making thing in itself. Like, hey, let's get a bunch of hot looking boys together and have them sing songs. Like, that's how you make money nowadays. But and that's the thing with the Catcher in the Rye. It's just like, if you go on DeviantArt or any kind of, it's just a whiny teenage boy power fantasy. Not even power fantasy, just a whiny goth boy complaining about shit. Like, everyone's a phony. That, is odd and banal that seems now. Like, back in the day,
that was huge.
Yeah, because everyone has to be upright and whatever. That was the first thing of that type of thing. Like, that was the introduction of that very concept of the whiny teenager being acknowledged in the
and justified and not being vilified or pushed aside. That's what's amazing about that book to people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hold up very well now because we've had so much of that since.
Yeah. I hate that book, by the way. It's just, I hate the character. Like, I tried reading it. I really did multiple times, but I just can't. Like, I feel like holding down this fucking kid and just punching him in the face until his fucking face meat looked like, I hate that kid. Stop complaining, you fucking faggot! And as a person who adores the dick, I can say the word faggot. Ian, I give you permission to say the word faggot. Say the word faggot.
Oh. Thank you, Milan. I really appreciate that.
Say the word faggot.
Faggot.
There we go. See?
Anyway.
And you're not white, so yes, that's the thing. It's this weird thing that I've noticed. I mean, like, this whole, like, hey... Do you notice that? Like, check your white privilege thing. I mean, like, when a black person says that to a white person, that makes perfect sense. But when it's a white upper middle class college girl screaming at another white person to check their privilege, I just find that kind of distasteful. I'm like, what?
I don't know.
I
I really don't know. I think it has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now.
I know. I'm sorry. It's just fucking, you Americans are strange.
Yeah, we are. Anyway, so yeah, I think Vasquez he's very aware of the fame that he's created, and it's weird that he did Invader Zim because he had to know that would get commercialized like crazy. Like, he had to know what he was doing there.
I guess so, but I guess when somebody says, "Hey, you want to make a cartoon? You can do it as creepy and as weird as you want. No decapitations, though."
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he thought that it would be over really quickly, and then it just kind of grew wings and took off. And, like, I don't know, like, maybe the controversy that kind of surrounded it helped.
It got canceled, though.
Yeah, but, I mean, it lasted, what, like 4 or 5 seasons?
Not really. Wasn't it just 2 seasons? Or 1? I'm not sure.
Let's figure out. Invader Zim. Just look up on Wikipedia, I guess. There was a movie series finale? Oh, they hadn't finished it. Oh, yeah, only 2 seasons, you're right. Okay, I thought it lasted much longer. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that he had to know that'd be commercialized. I mean, you look at Gerd; he's just begging to be made into a stuffed animal when he's in his little dog costume.
Well, most things that goths draw is
okay. I disagree, but okay.
Like, I would.
I don't know. Like, there's something. Like, one thing I wanted to talk about with Vasquez that I forgot to mention was his work is very gender neutral in its appeal. Like, I feel like his stuff is just very appealing to both men and women.
Yeah, he writes women rather well.
Yeah, like Gaz is such a cool character in Invader Zim, and Gur is so like ridiculously adorable. Haley had never watched Invader Zim before, and so I showed her like the first 2 episodes for this, and she was like just Gur singing the Doom song. She's all like, I want him. And like, you know, when he's in the dog costume and he walks and his feet make little squeaky sounds, she's like, that's so adorable. And so like there's something very appealing to both men and women in Invader Zim, or boys and girls rather. And then there's like in Sickness, there's, you know, a lot of just crazy over the top shit going on that guys really get into, when it's just like super nuts and whatnot. And then, but it's also a girl, and she's also dealing with girl things, like that date flashback she has. That's a very girl thing to deal with.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, like he does a black character that isn't black. He does a black goth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like cursed black. What does that little Hitler incarnate said? Reincarnate, like, filthy black woman, I'm a Hitler reincarnate. You know?
Yeah.
The first comic, she's paint colored a little bit too light skinned, but then in the third one, you know, she's colored properly. Like, she's black. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't quite catch that, I guess.
Yeah, she's a little bit too pale in the first part.
Okay. No, but I think that he captures, like, his work is very appealing across gender lines, which is really fascinating, because I don't know, like, I don't know if it's part of the society or just a natural thing that we've kind of divided entertainment into for boys and for girls.
Yeah.
And so it's nice, it's refreshing to have something that's appealing to both, without trying to feel forced, you know?
Yeah, but it's not obnoxious like fucking, like, anything. Like, pink is of the devil, and blue, like let's just get rid of gender altogether. Like, that kind of thing. Like, no. Like, just write good characters who have a vagina. That's all we ask.
Yeah, George R. R. Martin still has my favorite take on it. Someone was like, so how is it that you write such good female characters? And he goes, well, it's really weird. I've always thought about women as people.
Yeah. And that means they can be just as awful, funny, and just cuntish as man can be, you know? It's
one of those things that always drives me crazy whenever I hear someone say, oh, women should rule the world. If women were in charge of the world, there would be no wars. I'm like, fuck you. Women can be just as stupid as men.
And they're far more vicious. I mean, you know, as Louis C.K. said, I mean, fucking, like, boys will fuck things up. They'll break things. There's a, like, financial value to their destruction. Girls will shit in your heart. You know?
Yes, that's one of my favorite bits of his, actually. There we go. There's my quote of the day. But the whole gender thing is just something I wanted to bring up. But let's get back to comparing him to Morrison, because Morrison has that same kind of level of weirdness sometimes, where it's, you know, when you're reading something Grant Morrison, and you know when you're reading something Vasquez, or watching something Vasquez in this case. But like, as you were saying earlier on, Vasquez's stuff is significantly more negative in his commentary.
It's angry. It's very angry. It has that kind of bitter. It reminds me of you, of an angrier, more gothy you. Because you have,
so me in high school.
Essentially, yeah, you have that, and you are Hispanic too. And he's Hispanic. Yeah.
Well, like, I don't know if angry is the right word, but, like, visceral.
Biting, yeah. Like you have a very acid tongue, and so does he.
Yeah, I get that sense, too. It's just, it's very, very harsh, and, like, you just feel the sting of it. Like, when you see the commercials that are playing in Invader Zim, it's just like, yep, that's how the world would probably view it. It's like, I was watching one of the better episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where they talk about it's like this alien planet's first contact. Like, the way it works in Star Trek is, if your civilization is about to develop warp technology, then the the Federation will start to monitor you and will make first contact. And in their monitoring, they'll, like, listen to your popular music, like, listen to your radio bandwaves and watch your television shows and stuff. So yeah, in the Star Trek universe, like, so the Enterprise would, or whatever ship would rotate around revolve around the planet a couple times and, like, absorb their popular media, like their radio stations and their television shows, to try to get an impression of them. And so I feel like you could really get that with Zim. Like, that's exactly what Zim does in the first episode, and that's why his house looks as typical yet very strange as it does. And that's, my God, that is awful noise.
Sorry.
That's why his house looks so strange, and that's but at the same time so perfectly normal. And that's why, you know, when he walks through the front door, his mom and dad, you know, the dad has a pipe and the mom's wearing a tutu, and they're like, "Welcome home, son." It's so incredibly, just ridiculously, normal. And so, like, you get that impression of, like, this is what we can glean from this society. And so, and I think you get Vasquez doing that take on it and getting a very pessimistic or negative view on humanity. And you get Morrison, who kind of does the same thing, where Superman's able to listen to everything, and like All-Star Superman, he's able to listen to all things at one time. And in doing so, even though he's hearing and seeing some of the worst stuff, he's still taking the best of humanity at the same time. Like, you have Superman talking about being able to see radio waves and stuff in All-Star Superman, and that's just great. So, like, Morrison just takes the exact opposite viewpoint on people, which is I suppose, admirable.
Very much so. Very much so.
Like, I guess I'm always impressed when someone's able to look through all the fucked up shit that people do and just how shitty they are and see the good. That always amazes the fuck out of me. Like, I'm not sure if maybe they're just delusional and I'm just happy for them. But it is always impressive. Yeah. I remember I once had a conversation with Alex, where he and I were talking about how similarly we view so many things. And he makes the point, yeah, I mean, like, the only really big difference is that you're a cynic, and then I cut him off and say, and that you lie to yourself.
Yeah. What's your take on me, then?
You're just a madman. I think that's all you got.
Oh. I'm sad now.
Good.
Oh. Stop. I don't know. It's just, I guess I do find that admirable, that whole idea of just, like, despite of the fact you've got to see beneath the grime to the potential of mankind, you know, or just and just people in general. Because if you're just going to be a cynical cunt about everything, then what's the point? Just slit your own fucking wrists. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I see that argument from the cynical side, but there's still, like, there's something honest in cynicism that I really enjoy, and you can, as long as you have context for your cynicism, I think that works, and that's definitely what we get in Vasquez's work. Like, in Sickness, she's very cynical and hateful and everything, and she's able to actually go so far, like, she goes around the bend of cynicism that it turns into kind of a positive viewpoint on life. Like, you know, she is a cynic, there's no denying that, and she's told that she's never going to have any kind of social happiness toward the end of the book, but she's able to take that and persevere through it and go around the other side and find some kind of meaning and positivism in her cynicism, which is always great. And I think that's admirable as well as seeing through the cynicism and seeing something positive. I think you're ultimately getting to a similar place, but in a completely different way. I think that's a perfect place to end, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so as well. It's a review topic next week, but Steve isn't here to give us a topic, so we'll just, it'll be a surprise review, everyone. Wait, no, shit, it's not Steve's review, is it? It's mine. It is my review topic, and I don't have anything picked out on the top of my head. Shit, fuck, damn. Okay. Oh, shit, what to talk about? It's been a while. Nah, I don't want to do that. Entertain the people while I go look at my DVDs.
Do 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 do. Sometimes I see things that aren't really there. Yep. Speaking out his videos, DVD collection.
Do you think you could get a hold of Tales from the Crypt Season 1?
I'll try.
Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Tales from the Crypt Season 1, because it's only 6 episodes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that should be plenty of time to watch that. Alright, so yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about next week on Geeky Gentlemen. It's Tales from the Crypt Season 1. Hello, kitties! I do a really good Crypt Keeper.
Never do that again.
No, I'm going to do that. That's how I'm opening next week's episode. Anyway, everyone, thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the Madman.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.